Hi. Um, Hi. I guess this is my first video overall, I suppose. Um, but I thought I'd start off my study series with sociology. I was going to do stats, but stats is gay. I was going to do criminology, but then I realized most of my criminology notes refer to sociology. So I thought I'd do this. Um, so pretty much, I take a course called Sociology 216, and this is an introduction to criminology. It should be Criminology 101 or some shit like that, but it is not. It's sociology. Um, I think it's because our university doesn't have criminology properly developed as a subject yet, which is fine. But yeah, it's pretty much criminology. So what I've done, I've written my notes on what I learned in the first week, and now I'm going to share them with you and hopefully explain it. You should know that this is a learning exercise for me mostly, so I might not have everything right. And if you feel something is wrong, feel free to let me know. Or if you disagree with something I say, feel free to chime in there. I'm not the grandmaster. I don't know everything, but I I try. Okay, so let's get started. Um, First of all, what we're going to do here today uh, is look at what is criminology, because it's not as straightforward as you think. In fact, if you think about it, you don't even think criminology is straightforward because, I don't know, define criminology for me right now. What is it? It's not what you see on TV. That's what I thought it was, but it's not. It's not Criminal Minds. Um, so yeah, I've got written there what is criminology. It's very hard to define, but there are sort of three main areas that it focuses on. Sociology of law, which is how is law created, why is law created, and what does that do for the society as a whole. The second thing is crime causation theories, so we'll go through a few of them later on. But why does crime happen? Why is it a thing? And where does it happen? And who does it happen to? Um, so it's another word for that in blue there is criminogenesis. It's intense there. It just means crime causation. And the other thing that criminology is a study of social responses to crime. So, what happens when a crime occurs? You go through the police, you go through the courts, and then you go through corrections, like the prisons, and what you get punished for, etc. So yeah, the formal institutions that surround crime, e.g., the police, courts, and corrections. So before we get into actual theory, there are three different types of criminology theory, or they're very broad, and a lot of theories sort of bring in, those three things. But it's good to just sort of have in the back of your head these three things. The first thing is that some theories cover the individual, is more focused on the offender or the victim. Why did these people commit the crime? What made him commit the crime? What made him the victim? Usually surrounding the biological and psychological makeup. Like way back in the day, like I don't know, like in the 1800s or some shit. Some dude came out with this thing that he had a list of traits. Big forehead, monobrow, etc., extra fingers, long limbs. And if you had 5 of these traits, you were a criminal. So that would be that theory. We'll get onto that later. Would be an individual theory because it surrounds, what makes up a criminal. The second one, situational theories. They, I haven't actually been through any of these yet, so I can't give you an example. But from what I understand, they base themselves on what happens when the crime occurs. So, if you're robbing a bank, a situational theory would, bring in what happens there. I guess rational choice theory, which I think will be the first one we go over next time I upload a video, sort of brings in this a little bit, or you can Google it. And then structural, which is what sort of the newer theories seem to be bringing in. So what shapes society? What are the institutions that cause crime to happen, or cause people to commit crime? So like churches and your work groups and your peers, etc. A way that my lecturer explained these things to me, with pictures, because pictures are my thing. I learn through pictures, so I thought I'd go through those as well. So there are 4 of these pictures that sort of help you just think about criminology in these sort of ways. So the first one is the circle, and that's the idea that society just works. It's harmonious, everyone's happy, and inside the circle is the mainstream. So here we have the mainstream. And then sometimes people deviate from the mainstream and they go over here. And what we have to do is pull them back into the mainstream. And that's the idea of crime. An important thing to remember is that the state sets up the mainstream. Just the state, power, stuff. Sociology. Second one is the triangle. That's the idea that society is a hierarchy, which is really quite obvious it is. I've written with all the sirs at the top. I read this series. And the poor are down the bottom here. So, it's like upper class, middle class, lower class. And there's sort of 2 views to this. One of them is that everyone has a chance to get to the top. Regardless of where you're born or what socioeconomic status you come from, everyone has a chance to get to the top of the hierarchy. And the other, more critical view is you're born where you're born, and if you're not born at the top, well, it's just too bad. But the thing to remember here is that the top of the triangle makes the laws, and everyone else has to follow the laws that is made by the top of the triangle. The next one is the oh no. I've written interrelated triangles, but it's meant to be rectangles. These are not triangles, these are rectangles. The interrelated rectangles. So its crime is, sort of dependent on institutions meshing smoothly together. So, I've drawn here, you've got your family, you've got your work, your church, your peer group, etc. All those institutions you interact with. If you're a criminal, those institutions will be not pro-social. They'll be antisocial. So if your peer group is a gang, you're going to start committing gang crimes. Or if your family is, not very close, or a broken home or something, you could end up a criminal, according to this interrelated rectangles idea. And then the last one is, the stick figure, the individual theory that, crime is your own fault, it's just what you do. You just are a criminal. And so all the theories kind of draw on those 3-4 things. They have sort of a focus in one area and kind of draw on the other ones. But the way to tell whether a theory is valid or not is that it has a high cognitive or empirical validity, which means it's got studies to back it up, or it does have studies to back it up, and it makes sense, pretty much. If you've got studies to back it up, there's not much you can argue with, really, unless the study was conducted poorly. We'll go through that in stats, because that's data analysis, but it all sort of comes together. Okay, so that's what your theories are made up of. It's not too important to remember that shit, but you just got to keep it in the back of your mind that, we're focusing on these sort of different things there, just kind of an overview. The second thing that's important when you're doing criminology is defining crime, which is trickier to do than you think it is, okay? Um, so when you think about it, what is a crime? Um, it's apparently, and I agree with this now that I've done the study, a socially constructed term that we use to label deviant behaviours, and we use the word criminal to label deviants who commit these deviant behaviours. Blah, 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 blah. So there are sort of three categories or dimensions that we sort of bring together to define crime into a sociological definition that I will be using from now on. So the first one is legal, which is the straightforward way of defining crime. You break a law, it's a crime. You're a criminal, and another way to say that is that it's an illegal act. The thing with we would stop there, like that would be easy to stop there and go, oh, if you break the law, it's a crime. But what it doesn't take into account is, why is something illegal, or why is something illegal, and who decides what's legal. And sort of another reason we don't stop there is this little diagram here. Is that a crime isn't a crime until there's a law against it, right? We label it as criminal by making a law against it. And to make a law against something needs to be deemed as criminal behaviour. So, something seems criminal to everyone, and so we make a law to stop it, and then that law then makes it criminal. You see there? It's a little bit tricky to get your head around, but Circle sums it up nicely. So we can't just stop there. Like, what makes something so criminal that we need to make a law against it? So that's where the next two come in. The first one is social category. So we have to think about how crime differs on a social basis across time and culture. Because in this sense, crime is just a deviation from the norm. Let's just pretend laws don't exist, and what is criminal is something that deviates from the norm. So the thing you have to think about is that in each society, the norm is different, and therefore, if we're going to make laws based on norm deviation, the laws are going to be different in every place and in every time. Like back in the day, they had weird laws, like, women couldn't show their ankles or some shit like that. I don't know. But, so that's different to nowadays, at least in this country. An example was that in Thailand, I think in 2009 maybe, she had a baby girl. She was 9 years old, and she had a baby girl. She was married. She wasn't raped. She was married. Or, she wasn't raped. She was married. So in this country of New Zealand, maybe that would be considered as something criminal, wouldn't it? But over there in Thailand, that's fine. The law says a child can get married if her parents consent to it. And so that's not breaking a law, but is that moral? Or, who are we to judge their society, So, crime isn't static. Not at all. It's not something that is sitting out there, with all its definitions, everything that's legal and waiting for us to find. It's something that we make up ourselves based on what we find to think. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so it's just, you have to really think about how crime changes and why it changes even. So there's the legal definition, it's against the law, and there's a social definition, it's a deviation from the norm. The next one is the political definition. So that looks at who creates the laws. or who has the power to create laws, and why do they make these laws that everyone has to follow, not just them. So those with the power can turn their personal interest into public policy. So something they believe should happen, then everyone has to follow. So the most obvious example, and maybe the only example, is the state. Your government, etc., etc., who are infamous for empowering the rich and pretty much shitting on the poor. I don't know much about politics. I don't care, to be quite honest. So I don't know if this actually happens, but in sort of my social circle and around that, it appears the government is shitting on the poor. So, oh yes, I have an example, a very good example actually. Shit, I should have found this before I fucking started filming. But it's pretty much that in New Zealand we have, there's the, I don't know if, the native Maori people, and then obviously there were the European settlers back in the day, and they eventually combined, into the country we are in today. But back in the day, when sort of the European settlers were, taking over, making a government, etc., they made these rules that I have here, and we'll read them out to you, a couple of them, that are really obviously unfair to the Maori people. So the Native Land Act of 1865 stated that all land must be individually owned, otherwise it would be considered without an owner. As a result, Maori land was divided and sold to European settlers. In 1869, so that'll be 4 years later, land in Oriki, which is a place, was ordered to 13 European settlers, and 100-strong hapu were legally disinherited of their land. I'm not sure what hapu means, but apparently 100 of them were, lost their land to 13 European settlers, but they've just said that you can't own, land must be individually owned, but they've just given it to 13 settlers. Like, isn't that a bit of a double standard? And in 1882, the Public Works Act permitted the state to take possession of any land for the public interest, pretty much giving them free rein to walk up to someone and go, hey, this is our land now, the public needs it. So that's unfair. And another one I've highlighted is the Validation of Invalid Land Sales Act, 1894, stated that any unjust or wrongful confiscation of Maori land in the past was legalised under this act. So obviously someone's complained, as they rightfully should, and said, hey, what's up with you taking our land? And they've just said, sorry about it, but we're just going to make a new law that says that was all legal, and maybe we'll start from today. Which, I hear it's still going, something about beaches in this country, I don't know. I don't keep up with the news. But yeah, so it's the state making laws to, making laws to feel better about themselves, making laws to benefit themselves. There we go. Another example is the Nixon administration in America, how they something about black people, and I don't believe black people had many rights back then, and they were protesting, obviously, as they should. Everyone should have equal rights, and the Nixon administration made it illegal to protest. So they're essentially criminalizing behavior as it happens. So what the political does is it links the legal and the social definitions together, and brings it all into an amalgamation of what is crime. There. I feel like I've missed a page, like there should be a what is criminology somewhere, but I don't know. So yeah, the three sort of definitions to crime are, oh, we did what is criminology. You have the legal, so the straightforward, you break a law, it is illegal. You have the social, So that's what makes something what. So the social would be why should something be made a crime? Is it harmful to society? Is it harmful to others? Why should something be made a crime? And the political is, I guess, the bridge between that. So you have the social. Where are you? There. You have the social, and that says, hey, this behavior is harmful to everyone. We need a law made. And then you have the political bridge here, where the people in power look at this behavior and go, hey, that's harmful to our society. Let's make a law against that. And then you have the final legal definition over here saying there is a law against this. It is illegal. Okay? So I guess that's sort of my take on what I've learned so far. If I was wrong, again, just correct me. I'm not gonna go, oh my god, I am right about everything, because I really am not. Um, so yeah, just a few things to think about if you're really into criminology. I find it to be very interesting, and for some reason the sun has just come through my window like that. Like, wow, look at that sun. Um, so yeah, I find criminology really interesting, and it is really interesting. To be honest, that was probably not the most interesting part about it. But the criminology videos I'll be doing, that's on punishment, so that's got some cool torture stories and stuff in there. But yeah, just things to think about is, what do you think defines a crime? If you get a piece of paper and you write at the top, you write crime, and then under it you just think of, don't think of things. I mean, yeah, think of things if they're illegal, but maybe you think, is stealing a pen a crime? It is. I guess it's theft, isn't it? But not everyone gets caught for it, or some people don't care about it. So what do you think defines a crime? Have a go at that, and then if you're still not bored, what defines a criminal? Write criminal at the top of your page, and write down things. It could be physical attributes or something, or it could be things that criminals do. What defines a criminal? And then sort of look over your answers and just think about, why do you feel like that? Just get real deep about it and just be like, why is this my interpretation of crime? Is it, do your family or friends think that way? Have you seen it in the media? I mean, I know that before I did this course, before I started doing this course, I haven't finished it yet, um, a crime to me was just something that broke the law. Obviously there were things that were immoral, but they were never crimes to me. Maybe you disagree with that. Maybe you think if you do something immoral, that's a crime too. But yeah, the thing about taking a social science is they make you do a lot of deep thinking, which is not really what I'm about. But yeah, just it's quite nice to just sit there by yourself and have a think about things if you're interested in them. Yeah, so that was sociology with Monique. I smell burning. Um, I guess I'll be back soon with my criminology video and maybe a stats video if I ever get around to it. And yeah, hopefully I get around to it. Okay, it's me, over and out.